Hello, and welcome to the I Don't Care That You Don't Care show with your host, Wes Spate. Today's guest is Tim Basaraba, also known as TBASA. I don't care that you don't care.
So you're gonna shave the beard today?
As I was driving up, I was listening to. Well, I had been listening to my latest album, and I have the mastered wave files, and I'm gonna, I got the CD art and the digital thing, and I'm ready to like push it out into the world. Probably like July 7th is what I'm thinking.
Okay.
It's my wife's birthday. I want to steal her thunder a little bit.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And as I'm thinking, it's taken me a while to do this, and the beard and the scruffiness, and this is the longest I've grown my hair in probably a decade. So yeah, I think I might just shave everything and kind of like, just start anew. Probably I won't shave. After I shave it all off, I probably won't shave for another 6 months. It'll just kind of grow back at this weird rate.
I like it.
But it'll feel good to kind of be like, this is done. Mm-hmm. So this look is done or something.
Yeah, it's not something you have to worry about for 6 months, basically. You don't have to worry about...
Yeah. And the other thing is, there's just, when you're married, and Paul and I have been together 18 years, there's these little tricks I've learned to reinvigorate attraction. And, if you... Of course she loves me, but she looks over and sees this like small woodland animal on the bottom of my face, and I understand that it's she has to trick herself into thinking, oh well, but it just look. I mean, it's a coarse, right, disgusting creature. Yeah, but it feels good to kind of hide behind it sometimes, and like when I'm caving up and making songs, it's kind of like, well, I could go to a show or do something, but. Do I really want to sit there and have people smell my beard? Yeah,
right, yeah. Yeah, I remember, I don't know exactly if it was 6 months. No, it couldn't have been 6 months ago. It's probably like 4 months ago when I was complimenting, like, your beard looks fierce, it looks fantastic, let that thing go. And you're like, I don't know.
Yeah, it was very 300 kick the guy down the well phase at that point.
Okay.
So, who was that? Gerard Butler. So it kind of had a nice, like... like shape to it, and I was taking time to like take the high cheek hair off, but now it's just
right.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. No, I do know. I mean, I do know the feeling because I do something similar. Like I grew my hair out for 2 years, and then I just cut it. I used to be way more extreme. I would shave it completely.
Yeah.
And I'm not feeling that. I wasn't feeling that extreme.
Well, I've always been very jealous of your locks. Under this hat, there is what I would describe as a pre-crypt keeper thinness.
Okay, yeah.
So at the beginning of Tales from the Crypt, when that crypt keeper jumps up and goes.
Oh yeah.
That's pretty much where I'm headed. But I thought I'd give it one more go and kind of feel it. I'm like, I toyed around with like right now it's long enough to like almost make a slight ponytail to like cover up a Friar Tuck type bald spot.
Okay.
But it's pretty pathetic. Yeah. And I'm pathetic in a lot of other avenues of my life. I don't need to be in my hair. I don't think. But this could all change. I could get home and chicken out, but we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, are you going to video it?
Well, I wanted to do that.
Yeah.
Have you seen the cover of the album?
Yeah. So I like it a lot.
I really want to thank you. It's done by John Ohazian. It's done my last 3 albums.
Oh, really? So did he do the cover one?
Yeah, he did
the
that
cover album. Okay,
yes.
Cool. Yeah.
And he did the last one with the picture of my wife, and myself, and Huntsy.
Okay.
And he did the one before, the Hyperbully, where these like 2 characters are like boxing my head. Anyways, I was going to kind of do an homage. I wasn't going to film it, but I was going to, like we had spoke about, I was going to basically shave the side of my head that corresponds with the skull on the album.
Ooh,
and kind of do a
okay.
picture,
Yeah.
like a side-by-side comparison.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I forgot that actor. He played MacGruber on.
Oh yeah, he's on SNL or was on
Will Forte.
I think that
Yeah. So he had a role where he needed. I think it was called a show called The Last Man. He had a role where he needed a big beard, but then he decided to shave it off. But he did that half thing.
Yeah.
And I was so inspired of just the sheer ridiculousness of the picture, and I've always wanted to do that. So I think today may be that day.
Yeah, I was at a summer camp one year, and I remember one of the I was probably in middle school actually. I might have been a freshman. And this summer, this is like summer camp. If you've ever been to one,
I have once.
You have the same kind of hierarchy as high school. Like if you're a freshman and someone's a senior, like you're looked down upon until you can earn some respect. You know. So basically, I highly respected this guy, and he was able to grow a beard, and he shaved half of it and came into to like the mess hall or eating dinner with and I was just like, that is unbelievable. I want to be able to do that.
Was everybody like laughing, or was it more of a shock
everyone
thing?
it was a combination. Some people were like, what is going on with your, because you can do this kind of two-dimensional thing where you turn your face and turn it the other way, and it's hard to adjust to, because you're seeing two different, it's Jekyll Hyde. You got a Jekyll Hyde thing going on. So maybe I should eventually, when my maybe I'll do that as a prank on April Fools, like when my daughter's like two or three.
Yeah, where she can, where she can really recognize and like turn one way, and then
and then I'll just start doing it every year.
Yeah, I like that.
All right. So, anyways, I do have some a couple of questions that I wanted to get into, as far as because this is mainly about indie artists and how we make it work as an indie artist, right?
Okay.
And so, one reason I really wanted to talk to you about these things is because you and of course, like, this is my observation, like, and that's what I'm wanting to get, but I see you as such an organized person because you're able to juggle so many things. And of course, like, other indie artists have a lot of things going on, but I don't see them outwardly as I see you. And I see you've been a booker ever since I've known you, which, somewhere around 8 years, I believe. You've been booking multiple venues. You've been playing multiple shows yourself and with bands. And then also on top of that, you have a family. And so, and I'm sure there's other things. I mean, I know you've juggled some other jobs as well. So, I mean, that's a lot. That's 5 things right there. And I think that's probably more than most people do. I can't.
It feels like it sometimes, but it's hard to. I guess the only metric we have is social media now.
Yeah. Right.
So, it's hard to say if someone isn't very active on social media. They could be having this very hectic life, and
very true. Yeah.
But they might just post their breakfast or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
For me, I think underneath all this, like kinetic energy with each thing I do, I think there is a fear of if I bought into one, it wouldn't be, well, first of all, it wouldn't be satisfying, and I wouldn't be that good at it. And this isn't like the typical self-deprecating part of a talk. I really don't feel that my skills in a particular, whether it be playing lead guitar in a band, writing solo music, making event posters, booking bands. I don't think any of those things on their own, I don't think I'm not overly excellent at. I'm not in the top 10%. So what I've made myself I've trying to train myself into being, and I'm in the top 10% of someone that can do all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's kind of it's almost like a fear mechanism. When I really got into writing my first like full autobiographical comic book, I kind of did go all in, and I had like this cave up moment, and I wasn't booking a particular venue at that time, so I had some free time.
Yeah.
I took a break from my own music. I wasn't. I had a band, but we weren't playing all that much at the time, so I kind of had that. And you have the delusions of grandeur while you're putting in these hours and hours of tireless. It's when you make a comic by yourself without any collaborators. You're doing the penciling, the inking, the lettering, the rewriting of the sentence structures to make them, editing with a little bit you can grammatically, but keeping it real. It's just a lot of work and a passion, and my body and mind felt great, and I felt just in key. And then I got 100 copies. I sold it to the people that wanted it, and there was a couple people that I really respect said good things about it, but it wasn't the effort I put into it. It wasn't the return on it wasn't what I thought. I had to go a little different. I don't know if the art's the best way to encapsulate that, but I'm gonna tell you another little story that hopefully can encapsulate that feeling more. So basically, with that, I'm not disenfranchised to not draw anymore. I just don't know if I can go all in and put everything else to the side and not feel the respect, adulation, hey, good job, pal, that I do when I have my fingers in different pots.
Gotcha. Okay.
And a really quick story that goes along, and we don't have to be quick, but
no.
I don't want to tout this as a great achievement, and so if I talk about it longer, it'll seem like one. But when there was a song that came out called "I'm in Love with the Cocoa,"
Okay.
and it was a song about a gentleman that, and I forgot the artist's name. It was a hip hop song.
Okay.
It was basically about like, I'm in love with making this cocaine, and it was like ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it was kind of dope at the same time.
Sure.
Like someone that just would outlandishly, and the video has them like, like cutting up coke and shit.
Yeah.
And I remember we were our team, the Seattle Seahawks, were doing really good, and it looked like they were a team that could go to the Super Bowl.
Right.
And, we had a player that I was just in love with, his whole spirit and the way he acted, especially in an established league, as Marshawn Lynch, the running back.
Oh yeah.
And
number 24.
Yeah, number 24. And I was working at a pawn shop at the time, and one of my friends there, Chris, showed me this song, and we were laughing about like how ridiculous it was. And I had said basically like, oh man, I should just do a parody of this song.
Yeah.
And from that like seed of an idea, for the next 2 weeks, it was all about I'm in love with the beast mode. Like that was all I thought about.
Right.
I recorded it at a friend of mine's, and we, like, in one day, I wrote the lyrics. We recorded the song the next day. The friend of mine, DL, he reached out to a couple people. We got a couple other friends with cameras. We're going to film a video.
Yeah.
And I remember meeting in West Seattle, and this is to harken back to the point I was making, and I was so all into it that I walked into this like little pre-production meeting. I've never made a video before in my life. I didn't know what I was doing. I had two fellows with some Canon SLRs, and my friends James and John. My wife was there. We're filming at a friend's house, and then down at the stadium. And we were kind of on a deadline because their next playoff game was actually the NFC Championship was coming up that Sunday. So I wanted to get the video out. And so I grabbed a pack of football cards, something I haven't done in 20 years, on the way to this meeting. Yeah. And I show up at the meeting like I'm a David Koresh type character. And I had this pack, and I stood up and I did this speech. This video online is going to get what did I say, like 1 million views. Okay.
Yeah.
And not only that, the song is great. It's the best parody. You can see all these parodies on YouTube. They're garbage.
Right.
I don't know how these people are getting these amount of, this is amazing.
Right.
We got this concept.
Yeah.
And also, if I open this pack right now,
Mm-hmm.
and in this random 20 cards, there is a Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah.
He will hear this song somehow.
Yes.
And he will take us to the Super Bowl, which we're inevitably going to go to.
Right.
And we'll be his guests, and it'll be like this whirlwind, this greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
And everybody just bought in.
Yeah.
And I open up this pack,
Right.
and 3 cards in was Marshawn Lynch.
Okay.
Everyone lets out this screen.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
So we went into it like that.
Right.
We filmed it like we were gonna be rock stars.
Yeah.
It ended up getting 20,000 views.
Yeah. Which is good.
Well,
Yeah.
I guess.
But when you set your goal that high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It ended up getting 20,000 views. Marshawn never contacted us. No one did.
Well, he needed 1 million. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But we had fun and it was great. But in my mind, I needed that
Sure.
level of commitment on my end to get what sifted out was that. And like you said, 20,000 views. I haven't had a single song that I've created myself that's even come close to that.
Yeah. Right.
So that's a great achievement in itself.
Absolutely.
But to echo the point I was making before is if I went all in on one thing, like you're going to be just a solo musician, I would feel that I would be too crushed. So having all these different things that I'm doing and doing all right at them or being at least better than average, I feel that I can maintain my sense of self-worth.
Yeah.
Wow, what a rabbit hole.
No, that's actually really, really fascinating and makes me start to evaluate myself a little bit because I wonder if I do a very similar thing. Of course, I don't. We don't. You and I don't. I have never made a comic book, and I probably never will. But something that I'm starting to dip my toe in. I have written a book. It's not good. I won't release it, but it's started the process of me writing a better one next time. Yeah. Right. So that's another thing I want to dip my toe in. So I like, and I think there are a lot of people who just like to kind of push themselves and challenge themselves to be able to do different things, and I would imagine that's probably how you got into these things. Like you like comic books a lot, and I would imagine, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you've read several, whatever number of comic books. Eventually you said, I love this stuff. I can do this myself. You saw one and you're like, I can do this. And then, the same thing happens. And then it's another process of like, now I'm going to do this. Yeah. Then just saying like, I can do this. That you may not immediately do that thing, but eventually you did. And then you just you go full in. And that's the beauty of, I think how I evaluate you. You're so passionate. That's the thing is like when you do something, when you make a poster, you can tell that you put a lot of time and effort into it. Even if you, as you said, I look at you, I think I also I don't have my radar on. I couldn't really tell you many people who make posters. I know I've definitely seen some that I thought were very impressive, but in my view, I look at you as you're one of the top 3 as far as people I know. And even people I've seen, of course there are like, but anyways, what I'm getting at is you can see the passion and the time you put into it. That's the thing that draws me toward anyone's work is seeing that. Right. And so I think that's why I was really interested in talking to you about like, how do you manage all these things? Like, how do you have a particular way that you manage your time to be able to have your, to juggle all those different things? Like how do you do that? I mean, for me, I have to have a calendar and write these things down. Like writing things down is really the only way it really sticks in my mind. I do the Google Calendar thing and that is helpful, but like so there'll be moments for me with the calendar thing on the phone, something will pop up and be like, oh shoot, I almost forgot about that. Yeah. Whereas if I actually write it down on a paper on my actual calendar, it's like in there,
Well, just logistically, I've always been a very every job I've ever had has been, I've really steered into the administrative side of it.
Okay,
When a
yeah.
lot of people are big picture ideas, those people always annoyed me because they would have these great ideas. It's like when you sit around with your buddies, if you've ever smoked weed and somebody's got some grand delusion thing that sounds just in the moment, it's just like the greatest thing. But then the next day, no one even remembers it, and it just falls off the cliff, or dissipates into the ether. I've always been like one of those people. When I hear something, I want to see it through. At least see it through the process of putting it on paper. And I like what you said about paper. I'm a guy that has at least, I'd say, 3 to 5 notebooks going at one time. Yeah. And they all have different levels of, like, I have one notebook that's dedicated to booking. And it's about 5 years old. It's every show, every band. And it's not organized like a ledger of a mob boss's, accountant. It's very fluid and little notes everywhere, and it's kind of it's almost indecipherable maybe to other people, but to me, I see. And then another notebook I have is just kind of my daily, like, things to do, like you got to get this done and how to prioritize it. And then, like you said, with the Google Calendar, that is my oh shit moment, like, so I have alerts that pop up. Like, I got to meet somebody. And as far as how I prioritize what I do, of all the different things I do, I think, like you said, having a family is a huge component of it. And number one thing is I have to have shelter for my wife and I. And my dog. Well, he could probably stay outside, but he never would. So the number one thing is to pay the rent. So I have to prioritize the jobs that I can do to make that minimum rent. We have a health insurance as well, which is really important to me with my wife's medical issues in the past. It's always good to have some type of good health insurance in case there's some type of emergency. It's almost like emergency insurance. So those two things. I have a car that I've been just going crazy. It's almost up to 200,000 miles. It's a Chrysler 300. It was left over from the opulent years of my marketing job that I had. They ended up repoing my other car, which was a similar car. It was what were those things called? Do you remember the Dodge? It was like a station wagon, but it looked super dope.
It wasn't a Dodge Charger, was it?
No, it was. I don't know. I'm not a car guy, but it's basically the Chrysler 300, but like elongated into like a. And I had that in Magnum, is what they called it.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah.
So I had the Magnum. Yeah. Mine was the Magnum. My wife's was the 300, and we had a house. First the Magnum left, then the house left. These were all banks saying, you are not paying, so give us once the financial crisis. And you can get this full story if you read Right No Wrong, my first comic book.
Oh, okay. Is this 2008?
2008, 2009.
Okay, yeah.
So, but the funny thing is, and I hope the bank that gave me the loan isn't listening to this particular podcast, but they sent me a letter saying, we can't find the title, so we can't repossess the car. But if you sell it, you owe us the money to the car. So henceforth, I've been basically driving around this what was a $35,000 vehicle for the past 11 years, and it's just been like this blessing from wherever, and we've taken real good care of it. We have a mechanic that kind of looks at it all the time. We took it across the country. Drove all the way to Boston and then back. So that's another thing. Maintaining that is like the other priority. And those three things, shelter, health insurance, and that, and then the food's just kind of like I go to a food bank. We try to clip coupons. We do things. And other than that, everything else is just, like we're basically like our heads are above water at that point. So things like the phone and the cable and all that stuff, I pay it, but only when I can pay those other things. And so it's like this perpetual cycle of like things get behind and did this. And the 10 years ago me that had that, actually it was let's say the 15 years ago me that was right in the middle of a 13-year career as a marketing manager, would have just had a cold sweat of all that outstanding things.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But I've learned to, just ride this wave of, it's like being hungry enough to get the work, but not being so hungry that you crush your spirit and don't have time to enjoy life. And it's just a difficult balance, but I found that that fear of being broke can be worse than the actual being broke. It can actually debilitate you to where you don't have leisure. And there's a quote I read one time. It said, if you fear you're losing your leisure, take notice, because you actually could be losing your soul.
Okay. Who is that by?
I have no idea.
Okay.
So, but it really stuck with me. It was like,
yeah,
it's like so many people I see, and I don't know the inner workings of their mind or life, but you see them just work so hard and be so into their job and their career, and then their retirement comes, like, oh, we can travel the world, and they don't, and then they die like 5 years later or 10 years later.
Yeah.
And the struggle sucks, but it's also part of it, because that struggle and that am I going to make it, and that how you filter that can add to the creative process as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I take it that you made some really beautiful quotes there. I'll have to go back and listen to what you said before, but I really like you said fear of being broke is worse than being broke. That's yeah,
and I've been there. Because when you have a lot, it's scary to lose a lot.
Sure, yeah.
But when you don't have much, and you feel like, if I can just, have a place to feel safe with the person I love, and be able to lock the door.
Yeah.
That's like, if that's your paramount thing.
Yeah.
And you get past that point where, like, aha, that's paid.
Yeah.
Then you can feel pretty good about going out to a restaurant and spending $30 on a vegan buffalo wrap or something. You can feel like, oh, this is a treat, a great thing.
Yeah.
But if you have the 2 cars and the house and the mortgage and all the other things, you go out and you buy lunch, is just an afterthought. This is a drop in the bucket.
Very true.
And that's if I somehow, some way cracked the code and started making a lot of money relative to what I'm making now, or even to close to what I was making before when I was a business person, and I'm not begrudging people that would do that, and I would welcome that for sure.
Sure.
But I would definitely have a different perspective on how I spend money and what I need to make to what I need to be happy. There's an edict that Pauline and I just been chanting like over and over. It's just experiences, not things. Let's try not to get bogged down with more cool things. It's easy for me to say with a room full of guitars and music gear that I already had, but I really try to not. I try not to be bedazzled by the new and the I gotta have this, and I got an iPhone 7.
Sure.
I'm really slumming it up.
Yeah. Which, in my opinion, is significantly better than the XE. I upgraded because Ashley broke her phone.
Oh, so you don't have a home button?
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh.
So I if I could go back, I wouldn't have upgraded.
Are you on Verizon?
No.
Okay, because I would say, all right, put your money where your mouth is. We're switching our phones over right now.
Yeah. So experience is not things. So yeah, and you said, even though I'm just kind of backtracking to what you said, even though you have a room full of guitars and stuff, but those guitars, of course, like help create the experience, right? I mean, they
definitely
those are a means to an end. I mean, you need those to actually create this thing that the incredible thing that is music, where you're creating these sound waves in air, right?
Yeah.
And people get to listen and experience that with you. That's the incredible thing about music in general. Another thing I wanted to get into is I'm not changing the subject, actually sticking right on this, is
Okay.
that made me think about when I made Hackneyed, my album in 2013. I actually I sold my vehicle to be able to finish that record.
Really? Didn't you record that with Justin?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did.
That was my first. I think that was the first time I had heard you, other than something I heard live, and I really dug the whole sensibilities of the album, and that's what probably, if you had a different album, maybe we wouldn't be sitting here talking. It just really was in parallel with a lot of things that I was thinking and stuff.
Yeah.
It's weird how the you put two people on different sides of a city even, and they can have these parallels.
Yeah, totally. Well, no, I mean, you helped me out because you reviewed the album at the end of the year.
Was that like when I did like 14 top or?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
Cool.
But it just made me think about that experience for me, because that album, I felt like I really put
back here on Car Talk.
Yeah. I felt like I put myself out there just because I was willing to go to an extreme of, having a job didn't make me a whole lot of money. And I sold my car to finish that album. And so, I went, I believe it was 8 months, 8 months without a car, which isn't that big of a deal. People go without cars all the time. But of course, like, some people thought I was crazy for doing that too. So, which in hindsight, it's look at it both sides. Like, I sold my car to finish an album that I believe, like, I put the best possible effort into. Of course, like, I listen to it and cringe sometimes, but I still feel good about doing it. Like, I do feel like I went for it.
Sometimes it's the exercise of just going for it and not the possible end results.
Yeah.
Knowing that you can sacrifice something that is, it's a convenience or is important to you.
Yeah.
Speaking of, like, when you said cringe, that's one of the things that I've always been annoyed about with a lot of artists is their sensibilities are different than me, so they don't want to expose the stuff that isn't as great. They're very guarded with their music, and maybe it takes like 3 or 4 years to put out something.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And they're very meticulous about not being embarrassed about. I've always been on the other end of the spectrum, so like right now you can get, I think, I don't know, there's like 7 albums on Bandcamp right now. And you go back to the first couple, like 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
And like you said, if I chose to listen to a couple of them, or at least the whole album, I would say 80% is like, ugh, wish this wasn't out there.
Yeah.
But there's a couple that I'm like, oh, that's really cool.
Oh, yeah.
But for me, it's not about my ego or making sure I have some type of weird indie legacy of everything's got to be good. For me, it's like, here's a stamp in time of what I was going through in my mind, my body, my soul, and here's how it equated to the music that I made. And I just think it's just so revealing and transparent, like, for your soul and even for yourself. You can go back and learn stuff about yourself. And decipher things. Radiohead did you hear about they were the Tom York hack or whatever?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So that type of thing is that sensibility is like, okay, you want to hear all the B-sides or alternate vocal takes.
Right.
It's like that, the mystery of like me feeling like like the Wizard of Oz. Don't look behind the curtain. Like, I've never had that. I've been like, okay, this song was super corny, or that track. This new album I do percussions on, and I listened to my least favorite Beatles album because somebody told me that it was their favorite.
Okay. Can you say which one?
Yeah, Rubber Soul.
Oh, Rubber Soul is your least favorite?
It was.
Yeah.
And so I listened to it just as like an exercise, because somebody told me why they liked it, and I listened to it like, I don't know, 30, 40 times in a week.
Wow. Okay.
And when I put the headphones on, what I really heard was these really cool little shaker and tambourine percussions that were panned hard to either side.
Yeah.
And they weren't like, let's bring in the best shaker guy in the world, or let's bring in the best you know?
Yeah.
It's just they were just doing it in the moment and how they felt, and it just was so symbiotic with the guitars and the vocals. So I just did it. You know, I've always been someone that's I love to add the organic components of shakers, especially even if there's like beats in the song.
Sure.
Just to add that like texture and flavor, and you know, a beat's always on time. And if you have a shaker that's kind of going in and out with fatigue, it creates like a different feeling. So anyways, there's a couple songs where I just kind of went all out, did a couple like off time signatures.
Okay.
And that Rubber Soul, really listening to that really helped me to just kind of like go for it in the recording process.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm getting at, but I don't know what the point was, but it's not always good to do. For me, it's not always good to do what you're good at. Sometimes you have to venture out into stuff that you're not excellent at, and if it's recorded and people can hear it, and there's a fear of like, oh, that guy sucks at tambourine. If that's the worst that someone says about me, then I'm willing to take that risk.
Totally fine. Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. I mean, how I interpret that is how you got to that place was you're talking about how Radiohead just released, because they were hacked, they released all those. It was from OK Computer, right?
I'm not sure.
I believe it was from OK Computers. It was outtakes from all that stuff. And so, one thing that I noticed with some band members and friends that I've talked to about it, they've mentioned their reaction was, "Oh yeah, isn't that great? They're not perfect." That's kind of the things they said that I thought was really interesting.
Wow.
Like Tom York isn't perfect. He's got all these things, and he's willing to put himself out there.
That's weird, because I just assume that everyone knows that everyone isn't perfect.
Sure.
That like
Sure.
all these musicians started out as the kid in the garage, or the kid in the
right.
And it's like it's and the other weird part about that equation is there's this validation factor. Like once it's on a album and a major record label and on the radio, or at least I tend to give it automatic credence of like, this is the upper echelon of music. This is what is, but it's really, no matter how many great producers you have and so on and so forth, it's still a song that was created by a human, that was executed by not the most virtuoso person. If that was true, then, and I don't know if this is still the standard, but then Joe Satriani would be doing every guitar solo for every band or something. You know, I don't know if that's the standard, but everyone is flawed and has their tricks that other people don't know, and we all think the other person has it figured out. So that reaction that you told me is just that's really weird. But I know people like that as well. And those are usually the people that are sitting on something that they find to be like their magnum opus, that is just going to put them over the edge, and then by the time it comes out, they listen to it and they're like, I'm really sick of those songs because they were created 4 years ago. So for me, the process, I might not be getting rich off it, and those people might have more success because there's a more polished version of themselves. But for me, it's just like, I'm going to make this music anyways, whether 150 or 50,000 listen to it. So I can't sit on something and get bored of it.
Okay.
Nice. I'm already, I mean, you know how it is when you're done with an album, you listen to the mixes and you're bored of them. I'm at that point already now.
Okay.
But I really like going back about 6 months and listening.
Oh, absolutely.
It just feels like, wow.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, for me, sometimes it's like a couple of years. It might be like the first ever full length album I did was Lie and Wish in 2011, and it took like right out, because we spent so much, and I had also been sitting on those songs for a long time, and then finally recorded them, right? And so just for reference, that album has Stupid Thing Called Love, which I know you know that one. So, and anyways, once I finished that album, I was like, I don't want to play these songs. Like, I don't want to hear them.
You don't want to play them live.
Yeah, I was just like, I'm ready to move on to the next thing, and that's I moved on to Hackneyed pretty quickly, or at least started writing those songs, and then that my process is usually I write the song and I sit on it for a while, and I really like to let it marinate, and I like to like see if the song. This is kind of the game I play. The game I play is like I'm gonna see if the song fights for its life. Like basically, I'm gonna see if that song will come back to me.
And at this point, are most of the lyrics and everything written? Like,
yeah.
Like, do you have the structure in the lyrics?
I would say 90% of it's there. Like sometimes I might go back and I'll always reevaluate. And I might see like, does this need a bridge? Are there other? Is there another section I could put in there? Is there another? Can I make the riff better? Kind of thing. Yeah. So I'll reevaluate. And with lyrics, yeah. I mean, I'm doing that actually with a song that I wrote probably two years ago, where I changed a line that I think is going to make it significantly better just for changing one thing. But it was just for that one in particular, the song originally said love will break you and make you a man. Immediate. And so the song was kind of about having a child, and then I was like, well, I don't want to make it gender biased like that. I'm going to say make you again, because that's what love should do, is it should kind of like help you evolve, like make you a better person. Right?
But Wes, the Wes growing up has these little neuropathic brave lanes that like the vocal pattern, man, like make you a man.
Yeah.
That just that comes from like this just out of nowhere. Like I'm just guessing. Like it just kind of comes from you, and then having the wisdom and the age to like sit back and be like, I don't have to rely on exactly that. And changing. I mean, again. From man to again, that's like that comes with wisdom as a songwriter. I think that's pretty cool. I find myself criticizing my laziness because I don't I go about it a totally different way. I just wait for inspiration, and I don't ever have real lyrics.
Okay.
So it's kind of like it's kind of like like a foreign language of maybe like a melody, and then once I'm solid with the guitar, then I start putting in keywords, and then the rest of the lyrics form. So by about that process, I really want to have something recorded, whether it be on my phone or something, so I remember. So I'm kind of like, I'm like, it's not structured, and it's kind of scary, but I'm almost forcing myself to get it to the end. And that's why a lot of my songs won't have a bridge or odd, or just be like maybe two chords over back and forth. Sure. But still convey. Our mutual friend Peter was so proud of my new song, Miss Succubus, because I broke into like this, classical verse, chorus, bridge. Yeah. Back to the he was like, oh, that bridge, that's that, like he's wanting that from me as a lover of songwriting. Right. And that just happened on that song because it happened. Yeah. But if I find myself saying like, there's this new song I have that's a regurgitation of an old song called Downtown, Not the Band. Okay. And if putting a bridge in there would feel like I was telling myself to put a bridge, and every time I heard that song I'd be like, oh, that's you put a bridge in there because you were telling yourself, not because that's what the song needed. So there isn't one. Yeah. Ah, nice. Yeah. Well, my interpretation is what I think that you do so well at, and I think really is more important than anything, is a motive.
the emotion of the song, right? So I think that's the thing that you portray. I don't, and there are statistics that say that most people aren't actually listening to lyrics anyways. And I'm not. I do like lyrics, but I would say that if the emotion is not there, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, it's just poetry with elevator music. I guess.
Yeah, and that's cool. I mean that's cool, but I think we as humans really need the emotion. We need the feeling before we need anything. I mean, I think that's the thing is we need the feeling. I'm gonna stick with the song. I need the feeling. Then I'm in it. Then I wanna dig deeper. I wanna hear the lyrics. I wanna
Yeah, but you're not gonna take the time to go that deep if it doesn't catch you. Like
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
What do you feel? My favorite hip hop artist is Lupe Fiasco. So I get all of his albums. He has a new one called Drogas Wave, which I guess came out last year, but I just bought a couple days ago.
Okay.
On CD. What? Yes, this is 1999 flashback. Anyway, so I got the CD and I put in. There's 2 discs. The first disc, and I was like, you know how you always this is how I'm like. That's not my Lupe.
Yeah,
like that,
sure.
And then I put it in the second disc. Second disc resonated a little bit more. Now I'm about 4 listens into the second disc, and it's all I'm thinking about.
Yeah,
it's all and
right.
I'm just so excited. I hope that the small group of people that have been like, oh, I enjoy your music. I always hope that they give. Because there are changes between each album, and I think this new album of mine, it's called Caffeinated Funeral Songs. It's really just like the second part of the previous album, the Empath and the Hypervigilant.
Nice.
It's close, but there's some departures.
Yeah.
And as an artist, you hope somebody's putting headphones on and diving into your music and stuff. Totally. It takes a lot for a fan or even a contemporary to say something to somebody else.
Yeah, totally.
Because you can think it.
Sure.
That's one thing. And there's probably a lot of people thinking good things about different things that we put out as artists.
Right.
But for them to take the extra step to even reach out on Facebook Messenger or text you, or that takes. I mean, everyone is suffering all day long. The world is crushing us, and for them to take that extra time to say that, that's not just a small thing. So I take those little victories as validation. Validation has been. I've never really thought of that word as something that's been important to me, but it is really important to me as an artist. And you can almost always tell when somebody is sincere with. There's people that want something from you, and they'll say the thing that they're supposed to say, and it's still nice because at least they're taking the effort. But you can always tell when somebody takes the time to like say something about a particular song or a particular, there's always that great set.
Oh yeah, right.
Right. Which that takes a certain amount of giving up the ego and going up to someone saying good set. So I'm not diminishing that. Yeah. But I really like when somebody was like, dude, what was that one that goes, like when did you start playing that?
Yeah.
That was a new one. Like, wow, that was something that, and like that little bit of extra,
right.
It's like you're paying attention in class,
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
I like it.
Yeah, totally. I'm right there with you because I know, and I'm actually guilty of it too, where I have gone through the motions of just saying like, good set, man. Because I'm up next or whatever it is, and so you gotta, it is, so there is something extra to say about someone who really evaluated and connected with you and is willing to say, and really paid attention to this particular song. I try to do that all the time and at least like give someone some feedback because I would want that, of course. But also, like you said, I think it is partially like paying attention in class. Like, do you care? Are you actually paying attention? So I think that's actually something that hopefully every musician who's listening can kind of take note of. Like,
and to that point, don't be just disingenuous, because some of the time, indifference is a great like motivator.
Sure.
Sometimes I listen to people and I'm not catching what they're throwing. You know, I just don't. I don't understand. I'm not in that mind space. I'm not in that age group, or whatever the case may be. One of my, like, do you know who Brian Foss is? He books the Funhouse and a couple other venues.
Okay. I think I know that name, but I'm not.
He does a show on KXP. Well, anyways, he back when the Funhouse was in a good location.
Yeah.
It was really fun to play there, and I love that place.
Yeah.
And I remember when my band Lazy Comet, when I first got into the city, like I would say late 90s, probably like 99 or something, or 97, 98. Okay. We played there, and I was really, and I knew Brian just through other bands that had booked him, and he had championed their bands like, wow, you guys are awesome. And I was looking for that approval. Yeah. And I went so far as to saying, like, what did you, he was running the door, and I'm like, what did you think about Lazy Comet? He's like, it's just not my thing, man. Like, and he left it at that.
Sure.
But that was like a good 3-year motivator.
Yeah, it's also not negative, but it's not a negative comment. Right,
no,
because
not,
he's saying, like, he's not saying it's good or bad. He's just saying, like, it's not my particular thing. That's also a hard one. I've actually, like, listened to some commentary on that very statement, because that gets said in, like, in every realm of art, right?
Yeah, and there could have been more to it, but it wasn't. It was something along those. I mean, this was like whatever 20 years ago, but it was along those lines, and that was the sentiment of it. Yeah, and he wasn't trying to be cruel or anything, but it did. It really, like, in my mind, it wasn't as specific as I'm going to make a song that Brian Foss likes.
Sure.
It was more of like, well, let me think of what we're doing, and how can I not change to impress someone, but how can I shore up the things that we are doing to make it to where maybe someone would like it first listen or something,
Yeah. Do you ever go on the other spectrum? Because I've had moments where like I have these kind of fleeting moments of ego, like I'm on a peak sometimes, and sometimes I'm at the very bottom. Yeah. But basically, like, those moments where I'm kind of close to the peak or somewhere around there, like, and I get that type of feedback, like, not my thing, or whatever it is. Like, I'll in my mind, I'm like, well, you're just wrong. Yeah.
That's where I sit most of the time, unfortunately. There's so many other things into play, like where is it coming from?
Sure.
Is that Pauline, I tell Pauline that's my the much maligned Spider-Man 3 by Sam Raimi. I don't know if you remember Tobey Maguire walking down the street when the symbiote Venom is kind of corrupting his mind, and he thinks he's walking down the street like he's the coolest dude in the world, and in reality he's just the same loser Peter Parker that he's always been. Right. That's kind of how I have those moments where and I don't know if it is actual, like, mental disability or if it's just human nature. I feel like I can do no wrong, and if you tell me it's wrong, then you're wrong. I feel like that a lot, but I also feel like getting to that point and the climb up to that ego plateau is what gets you to push the music out anyways. Because if you were spending all the time down in the dumps, then you might never even have the gumption. So
very true.
I find I check myself a lot more when I do. And, I don't get a lot of criticism because I don't think I'm at the level where I'm inviting a lot of comments and such.
Sure.
And I could see someone that, like a young person that, quote unquote, blows up. Yeah. It comes with the quote unquote haters. And how would I take the haters now? Yeah. I'd probably be all right with it.
Yeah, right.
But 20 years ago, if a certain segment of the scene makers were saying, like, you're awesome and you're great and we love you, and then I got the reverse comments, I don't know. I think I'd probably take it pretty hard.
Well, there's and I'm gonna get this slightly wrong, but there's a statement that, and I think we all know this, but it's good to keep this in check that, yeah, I mean, you can have millions of people loving you, but it only takes one negative comment to get under your skin.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing is what do you remember? Your memory, you remember all the negative things that happened. If I ask you to remember specific things, you're probably going to remember the things that were more traumatic before you remember all the wonderful things that happened, right?
Yeah, I think that's almost like an evolutionary thing to where we need to guard ourselves as just animals against the pain and the hurt, like those pits in our life. But I think some of the peaks in our life are also great things to learn from as well.
Absolutely. How you deal with those and how you keep your ego in check.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That's beautiful, man. Thank you. I got some really good quotes that I want to actually listen back to, because you said something before. You said fear of being broke is worse than being broke. You said something before that I want to revisit as well.
Was it thanks for having me?
No. Oh. But so your new album's coming out July 7th, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna digitally release it on July 7th. That's my wife's birthday as well.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to have hard copies probably later in the month.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, the image. I was talking to a friend yesterday, and I hate white T-shirts, but my last T-shirt, I've only had one T-shirt two as I TBASA as a solo guy.
Okay.
And the last one was white.
Okay.
And I went on tour with my friends Patrick and Rachel, and they sold like most of their black ones, but nobody wanted to buy a white shirt.
Yeah.
So I was like talking to this person, and she was like, "Why don't you just put it on dark gray?" And I'm like, "Dude, that would look dope."
Ooh,
So I might have some shirts for the first time too.
I'd love to get one.
All right.
Yeah. In all seriousness, because I do have Patrick and Rachel's shirt, and I don't have yours, so I'd like to get one. And I just I like supporting music in that way. You know, like if I'm playing a show, I try. The majority of the time, I try to wear another artist's shirt, because most of the time I'll get asked about it too. Who's on your shirt? And then I can tell them, like, yeah, this is one of my friends. Like, I'm a big fan of their music. Check it out. It's like a way that
it's an advertisement almost.
Yeah, it is.
I get a lot of T-shirts for free being a booker, booking a club, and over the years, you know, it's like I really only wear the shirts of the bands I like. So if you see me in a shirt, then you know that's someone I enjoy to listen to.
Right.
I actually had a friend of mine had an idea of taking band shirts, turning them into a quilt, and she's quilting it right now.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
There's a king size quilt being made right now with band shirts on it.
Nice. Very
Pretty
cool.
excited about that.
And so we've done almost an hour now. So let's just wrap this up. So the last thing is kind of just going full circle. So as far as all the things you do, so you still write and have written comic books. You make show posters. You book shows. You've been in bands. You still are in at least one band other than yourself, right?
Yeah, currently in a band called Hail Mary.
Yeah,
with a couple of my dear friends.
Right.
Play lead guitar.
And then and you do an excellent job. And then also, of course, your solo thing, and then being in a family. So that's really like 6 or 7 things. But so because I'm not sure I've gotten a complete understanding of like how do you, because you definitely said like how you prioritize it, right? But how do you actually manage the time to say like, so if and when you do prioritize something, so what do? Do you just make a list and say like, gotta knock this out, and it's all done in the week? Or do you say, you gotta do all this in the day? I've got 8 hours to do this. I've got 4 hours. How do you break that down?
So as I was saying, with the priority of having shelter and such, there's 2 jobs that pay for that primarily. And those are gigs for you. Okay. Yeah. Which I, in the capacity of being a musician and also a gig manager, which is running sound and facilitating for the needs of the artists there.
So that's another thing you do. You run sound. You're also an audio engineer.
Yeah, to some degree.
Yeah.
Just like everything else.
Yeah.
I see the schedule that I have for that for the week, 4 gigs for you, and then I see the schedule where I'm needed at substation as far as either being on site or taking care of any like emergency situations.
Okay.
So those are done first.
Okay.
And then I usually have a day or two where I have a day off at home.
Okay.
That I'm not going into the city to actually either play music or run sound.
Okay.
And I take that full day and I basically take a list of priorities of things that I need at substation to do. Usually if there's a gap in the calendar, and we have a booking team now, so I'm not solely.
Oh, really? Okay.
There's other people involved. I don't know if you've seen, but we've gone a little bigger with a lot of national and regional acts.
Yeah.
And I'm there to support the team that's doing that and to make sure it goes well, but I'm not doing a lot of the reaching out to the bigger bands.
Okay.
So it's almost as much work. It's just not as much inception to end.
Okay.
I'm kind of jumping in at the halfway point.
Okay. Gotcha.
But what I'll do is I'll take a list of the things that I have priority and just start hammering them out. But there's a lot of stuff's very ghost in the machine to where I'll have all these tabs open and I'm going through the emails and I'm making sure the dates closest are getting filled.
Yeah.
But then something will happen, some chaos where the Facebook manager or messenger pops up and it's somebody from a band that I haven't talked in 6 months.
Sure.
And I usually take that as like kismet, like, all right, hey, look where that person. And so there's a lot of stuff that's very very organic, and it just kind of happens in the moment. And I break away from what I thought was going to be my itinerary for the day, and I'm off on a tangent to do this or that.
Yeah.
So I am structured as far as taking care of the things that I don't want to fall off the table.
Okay.
So stuff within the coming month.
Yeah.
So like it's June now. So my time to really stress out is about making sure substation looks good for July.
Okay. Gotcha.
And as July gets closer, that it starts to be 50-50 July, August, and then it just turns over.
Yeah.
And like I said, I have a binder for booking, or a little notebook, and that's just it's just a cyclical thing. You can see that I'd been doing that for the past 5 years, and it just kind of always has that same thing. But you don't want to get stuck in doing the same thing, and you want to grow a little bit and reach out to bigger acts and challenge yourself, and offer guarantees, and not just go back to the well on maybe someone that doesn't appreciate their friendship but doesn't appreciate the business side of it, or
right.
There's just different things, and then sometimes you have to cut off the person that only appreciates the business side and doesn't have the personal things. So music's a very community. It's if you're not consciously giving to other things other than yourself, even if you don't think it's possible, they're gonna see through the facade. So you really have to. If there is a local band that you like and they've released a new album and you listen to the song and you like it and there's an emotion that comes from it.
Yeah.
There's no reason why you shouldn't say something about it.
Sure. Yeah.
Because a lot of us sit on that little bit of praise or something because we think it makes us maybe look weak or something. I don't know what it is, but it's like Kanye said, it's like, why give flowers to someone when they're dead? You give them the roses while they're still alive so they can smell it. When someone dies, everyone comes out of the woodwork and says, oh, this person was the nicest person, the greatest, the most creative. Well, fuck all that. It doesn't help them now. So if I hear something I like, I heard a Mind Beam song last night off their new album, Crone.
Yeah.
I was just like, I have to tell myself, like, I can't do it right now because I'm doing this, but I'm going to make a point to say something about that song because it made me feel something.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important.
Absolutely.
For other musicians to do, just as an exercise. I mean, no one wants to, like, sit around and say nice things about other people, but you do it
Yeah.
and just let it go and don't expect it to be reciprocal. And it really does. It could be 10 years before he comes back. But that nice thing you said about someone 10 years ago, that could be your bass player in a new project that pays for your house.
That's a great point.
You don't know.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
And that's not the reason you should do it.
No.
But
No.
it is nice to know that things like that do come back around.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. Yeah, well, you also can develop a friendship from doing that. I had this experience. I just won't say his name, but this guy was in another project. He played bass with this female singer who's a fantastic singer and he played bass on this track. And this was like they made it just to kind of pitch it to film kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But this bass line in this song was the most incredible bass line I'd ever heard in my life. And I was like, this guy lives in the city I live in. Like, I'm just going to tell him, like, I thought, and the tone was just impeccable too. And I was just like, I'm not even, I'm not I can play bass. I'm not a bassist though. But I just was just so taken aback by it. I just reached out to him. I was like, hey man, that bass line was incredible. I just wanted to tell you, like, I really enjoyed that song. I love the bass line and the tone on that. I also send you a friend request because I'd like to follow and listen to the rest of the stuff you have, And he was like, hey, really appreciate it. Like, I see that we're connected with some other people. Like, we'll keep in touch, And like you said, I mean, I don't know if I'll ever play music with that guy, but it's possible. And even if I don't, I'll still respect him from a distance.
And like, put yourself in his shoes, like, or in a hypothetical situation, he woke up stepping cat shit. He goes to do the shower. Right. The shower's like only doing cold. He's all pissed off.
Yeah.
He gets your message and be like, you know what? Today's not so shitty.
Yeah.
And it's like little things like that.
Right.
I know I've had people that from other towns that have said like I listened to your album. Do you want to come play at an outdoor barbecue? In Oregon.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, it's a
awesome.
fantastic world, like, and I'll put this out there. Anyone that wants me to come play their house at a barbecue, you give me enough money to like pay for gas and something to eat for my wife. Yeah. I want to share my music with you. It's like I being a booker and in with gigs for you and all these things. It maybe creates this persona that I don't need other people to reach out. But if you like my music, if you actually dig what I'm doing, I will come and play for you. I want people to, that's the whole point. I want you to hear my music. Yeah. So, and that's another thing. I don't play much in the city. I have a pretty strict policy where I'm playing only if people ask.
Okay.
So I'm not like, hey, Barboza, can I open for, I don't have enough time to be that active. Yeah. And I would love to, if you dig me, I would love to open for your band. It's like, cool. And it's not about like checking off lists of venues I haven't played or being the cool kid. I don't care about that. I just want to play. I want to play music, and if I have the time, I'm down.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, and that's kind of a perfect segue to say that my new project's Water Penny, and I'm really hoping that we can get set up to where you're opening for a show for us very soon. I mean, it'll be this year. We have a single release show and an album release, and I'd like for it to be one of those two things. I'm still trying to kind of get that nailed down, but
like I said, you ask, and if I have the time open, I'm there. Yeah. It's really cool. I think, how the little clicks and scenes come, and then they fracture and they go. I think it's really cool for people to feel some sense of community. And that was something when we did the Lo-Fi All-Stars, especially at like in the Bambo Room. Right. There were people pulled from. You knew this person, but you didn't know this person. Right. But by the time this was done, you knew all these people. And things like that happen, and we lament when those kind of break up and scatter. Right. But we little do we know, as those are breaking up and scatter, new ones are happening.
Exactly.
So,
exactly. Yeah.
I'm down to be whatever You can make me your god and idol, or you can make me your punching bag. Anywhere between that spectrum.
Anywhere between. Okay.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
I don't mind.
Okay. And people can find your music on.
The best place is Bandcamp for
Okay.
me. A lot of people don't. A lot of the norms that aren't in music don't really know about Bandcamp. But what I want to convey is that someone buys a album on Bandcamp, they click and. They click the thing and they pay $10. I get about $8.90.
Yep.
So, as far as things like Spotify and iTunes or any of that other stuff, that's nowhere near close to that.
No.
It's a little sketchy because you can't do it from your phone. You have to have an actual computer.
Right.
But they said you can get it anywhere from MP3 to a WAV file, any type of file, and then you can just drag that over into your iTunes or something like that. Yeah. I haven't jumped into the whole Spotify thing. I've been pretty actually vocal about my lack of enthusiasm about it.
Yeah.
But I understand that getting people to listen is a big thing.
Sure.
Exposure is great, but you can also die from exposure.
Yeah.
That's
absolutely
to quote my my mentor Ed Beeson.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for doing this. Please check out TBASA's music on Bandcamp. Like him on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all those other things.
I don't Twitter anymore.
Okay. Well, I don't really either. I still have one.
I actually deleted my Twitter account.
Oh, okay. Well, good for you because it's pretty close to worthless.
Yeah, I thought Facebook is a very friends and family type thing.
Yeah.
And it's almost become grandma's social media.
Yeah.
It's jumped the shark, but it's a way to keep in touch with people, and Instagram is just a way to share images, and I love images, so
right.
And
Twitter has and it may have always been like this. I've never really completely committed to Twitter either, so it's partially maybe my fault. But all I see from Twitter, maybe not all, 90% of what I see from Twitter is just criticism.
Yeah.
That's all I see. So I don't really want to be putting my time in a place that's just critical the majority of the time. So I, like you, would prefer to see artistic works and, whatever. Of course, now I'm in a place where I'm taking and seeing baby pictures.
Yeah.
So, that adds a little light to my day. So
well, here's a little. I don't mean to extend this a little longer here, but I have a policy that I stick to on Facebook that as soon as someone has a child or even announces like the third trimester, I unfollow them and come back like 2 years later. I have not done so to you. One of the rare exceptions.
Man, that is awesome. That makes my day. Well, hopefully I would hope that it's because I'm not going to abuse that privilege. Although I will say, I've looked at my other friends who are dads and seen how often they post about their kid and how proud they are. And I never understood it until now.
Oh,
now I really understand it. But I also am trying to keep myself in check. Like, don't be proud because she's now like able to lift her arms above her head,
Well, that's another thing. Like my wife and I live at a beach now, and there were these ospreys are having this child, and we're walking, and we're 10 feet away from there, and she's like, "Oh, I got to go back and get my phone." And I said, "You know what?
Just take it in.
You have a phone in your brain.
Just take it in." Yeah.
And that's another thing. It's like, it's very. In the throes of social media and the little dopamine kicks that you get from the hearts and the thumbs up from the posts that you do, I've come to a pretty good place where I'm focusing on real life a little bit more, and I'm enjoying it, and it also makes the time I do divvy out to things like Facebook, makes it a little more enjoyable.
Yeah.
So it's just like anything, if it's not your art, you should have some moderation.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. I've noticed that I've been turning my phone off at some points in the day.
That's awesome.
I need to start. What I want to do is kind of I don't know. I'm on the fence. Right now it's just a little sporadic,
Mm-hmm.
like because I'll notice if I'm being too reliant on it, I'm just gonna turn this thing off, and that has been the best part of my day when I turn it off and don't think about it anymore and focus on the moment of what I'm doing. And so I'm trying to be more aware of those things. But there is, and just I think it's a great point what you said. It makes when I do spend time on social media much better and more memorable because I'm like, I'm just going to occupy this time. I'm going to engage, and I actually want to, give someone some validation. Actually,
Yeah,
you know?
you have like a purpose instead of your thumb just constantly.
Yeah, and just in being, I've also been guilty of being on it for the wrong reasons of just like, oh yeah, this, I don't care about what they're doing, whatever, I'm gonna skip over that and look at the next thing, and that's just a negative place. I don't want to be in that place. But yeah, we've done almost 2 hours, so
okay,
let's wrap it up. But thank you again so much for doing this.
I can't wait to see what you come up with, and anytime you want to follow up, I'm down to come back.
All right, awesome, sounds great.
All right, thanks.
Later.
Pauline and I have this thing we tried to start a couple years ago called